then what we're put in front of us is, okay, I have to find a way to breathe and be calm in this state that's creating such mayhem inside of me. So it's like, okay, I can choose. Do I want...
I can choose.
I can choose. Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's a big one. And we forget that. The body, I truly 100% believe that the body can heal itself if it's given half a chance. Saying, oh, my knee hurts or my hip hurts, I can heal myself by connecting with my body. We go to the doctor, and I'm not against medicine. I'm not against anything like that, but they're helping to numb it, not necessarily fix it. When you go the latter route, it's going to take time. It's not going to be a one and done fix. It's going to be a lifelong thing,
Years.
But years, forever, if anything, or the whole life. But it's going to create more life. It's going to create more longevity. How much of that is me being authentic, or is it because I feel like I have to be this way in front of people? Oh, 100% I believe that everything is coming from the food and the chemicals that we're putting into our body.
I think so
Hands
too.
down.
And there's a lot of it, including...
Right? And then that's what makes life this beautiful paradise, is by making the mundane things so special.
Hello, my name's Jared Garay, and welcome to the Humans in Harmony podcast. This is a very special episode today because this is our first episode ever, and we are joined today by a very lovely guest, Miss Isabel Ortigoza. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
My vision for this podcast is to interview people with a deep understanding and knowledge of the human body so we can better learn about the hidden mysteries and intricacies of the human body. And Izzy here is one of my favorite yoga teachers, and I started yoga early this year, fell in love with it right away, first class. And Izzy was one of my favorite teachers because during our practice she talks about some of my favorite things like presence, intention, breathwork, and the core brace. I could also tell by the way she teaches and instructs us that she has a great understanding of the interconnectedness of the body, and not just the physical muscles, but also the mind-body connection, the spirit, the human essence, the soul. So I'd like to dig into some of that today and get a better understanding from you, and hopefully we can all learn from it. So thank you, Izzy. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to see what we discover together through this conversation.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with your backstory? How'd you grow up? Where? And tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Ooh, okay. Well, so I'm originally from Massachusetts. I grew up south of Boston in a coastal town called Hingham. Lovely. Got to grow up right by the water.
I saw that you got into dance early on.
Yes. So ever since a young age, I've been very into movement. I started dancing when I was about, I want to say 3 years old. My mom put me into ballet, and
wow.
Yeah, very young. And then around 6 years old, I started getting into gymnastics. So that was when I was just constantly moving and fell in love with my playfulness of being upside down and just trying all sorts of different avenues and with my body in that way. So that's where it all began. And then I continued to do dance all through my childhood, and I still do in my adult life as well. I studied dance a little bit in college, but ballet primarily focusing, and it was just for fun. Never any desire to be like a professional dancer or anything like that. But so that was really exciting. I stopped gymnastics right after high school and did that all the way up through high school as well, and was the captain of my team, actually, which is really interesting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was a interesting moment. But since I started college, I had a missing void. Like, I was still dancing, but just, it was the gymnastics. Something was missing. And it was that, I want to say, winter break when I came home from my freshman year that I saw an ad for, it was a Bikram yoga studio. And they were saying, burn 1,000 calories in one class. And of course, being my freshman year, I had that classic weight gain of the freshman 15. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sold. Get me in there. And So to my surprise, a lot of the postures that were being done were very similar to the gymnastics poses I would do. And that got me hooked. I fell in love. I was like, wow, I love this. I loved the heat. I loved the sweating. And from that moment on, I have been practicing yoga ever since. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to talk about some yoga, but before we get into that, I'd like to talk a little bit about your dance history. What type of styles did you do besides ballet, and what did you love about dancing?
So I did, as a kid, I did modern, jazz, tap, hip hop, all the variety. My favorites were modern, ballet, and hip hop. Actually, I kind of loved them all. But as I grew up, as I got into college, I focused more on modern contemporary style dances and hip hop as well. I did ballet as my focus because I had to pick one, and I don't know, it just seemed I liked the structure that ballet has to offer, and at the time I felt I really needed it. So, but yeah.
Awesome. You get some of that flow feeling in there?
Yes, definitely. A lot of my dance-ness comes into my yoga practice for sure.
I like to train jujitsu, and I feel like that also translates well over to yoga.
Absolutely.
And you get that flow feeling sometimes, and that's like that feeling that I'm always craving, like when you get into the zone and you're just flowing. And that's like, I always strive to get that feeling, and I feel like you might have experienced that in dance.
Oh, yeah. Dance gives me a way to, I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's like that mental escape.
Yeah.
But it is, because you can't really think of what you're going to do later or what has happened early in the day while you're in the midst of a dance routine.
For sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure same with in the midst of a match. You know, you can't you're not thinking of what you're going to cook for dinner when someone is like choke holding you.
Yes, you're locked into that moment.
Exactly, and it kind of brings you into that mindset of present, of being focused.
Yes.
And a lot of these mind-body movements, these practices, they're just so beneficial in that way. Yeah.
Love it. And that's one of the things that I love that you talk about in yoga is presence, being there in that moment. Mm-hmm. Because really, when we're present, that's all we really have is that moment. Yeah. The future and the past, it doesn't exist. It's made up in our mind. And too often we're lost there and not enjoying that present moment. So that's one of the things that I love about yoga. And especially when you're teaching it, when you're talking about it, it's like, oh, come back. Let's be here. Exactly. Because this is what matters. Like,
exactly. And that's one of the things that really got me hooked more into the philosophical side of the yoga practice. Because, of course, the physical movement is what kind of got me in there, which is why I'm a big advocate for, you know, it doesn't matter what brings you to your mat, because we all have our reasons. But what brought you to your mat a year ago might be different than what brings you tomorrow or 10 years from now. So, like, now I go for a whole different reason. Of course, I love the physical aspect that I get, but brings me into that present state, because I, just like every other human, I have a hard time of being present. Like, I'm always trying to think of like, okay, what do I have to do next? Okay, what is it? What is on my agenda for tomorrow? Okay, got a plan. And of course, that's our mind's way of trying to be in control of our lives. But this practice, it just helps ground me. It helps bring me right back. And if I didn't have it, I would be way more of a basket case than I already am. And so even just before coming here, I was feeling a little scattered and kind of just, oh my God, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen. And so I just went to one of my tools, which is meditation. And I just put a timer on and breathed. And it just brought me back into, calm down, girl. You're just going to have a conversation.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that meditation?
Oh, yeah. My go-to is just mindful breathing. Of course, there's many different types of meditation. You can repeat mantra. You can do visual meditations, guided meditation. But my favorite is matching with breathwork, with pranayama. And whether you count the breath, what I did earlier was a simple counting 4 as I breathe in and then 4 as I breathe out. And I don't necessarily stay with the count during the whole meditation, but it gets me into that rhythm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how does that help you?
It helps to calm my mind, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll get anxious too, and it'll help kind of calm that like buzzing feeling that you can get in your body, and just kind of going through your veins. But yeah, it helps to just bring stillness.
Definitely. And that's been something that I've been learning about recently too.
Yeah.
I read a book by a famous jiu-jitsu guy. So that's why I got into it. But he titled his autobiography, Breathe. And in it, he just focuses on or emphasizes the importance of breathing and how much it helps every aspect of your life. So since then, I've been paying a lot more attention to breathing techniques and studying like Wim Hof and those other types of techniques, and realizing what it can do for your body and your mind. And that's another thing that you constantly talk about in the yoga practice is the breathing. And it's such an important aspect, I feel like.
Yeah. It just, like you said, it helps kind of rewire the way that your brain is thinking, because we have the parasympathetic nervous system and then the sympathetic nervous system. And
I'm not familiar with those. Can
that's
you
okay.
expand on them real quick?
Of course. So the sympathetic nervous system is our fight and flight response.
Okay.
So, when you get that adrenaline rush, and it could be negative or positive, but a lot of us kind of operate in that frequency of just, oh my God, I got to be here now, or I got to go, I got to rush. And we have this short breath where we breathe kind of in the upper chest cavity. But when you're able to deeply breathe into your belly and to allow the full capacity of your breath to be achieved, you downregulate that nervous system into the parasympathetic, which is the rest and the digest. So that's more, that's why you feel more calm and you're able to relax. It's the state that our body goes into when we sleep. Yeah. So it's easier to feel it than to explain it, but it's kind of like a shift. And you just feel like
relaxed, calm down.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And with that, breathing with the belly is something he talks about in the book, is breathing with your diaphragm instead of your chest. Because mostly people, they breathe opposite. Like when they breathe in, they're pushing their belly in.
Right.
Which is compressing their lungs, and they don't get that full breath.
Yeah.
So then once you learn to use your diaphragm, my first time I was like, whoa, this is what a full breath feels like? I've been breathing wrong my whole life? Like, what? Yeah. And since then, it's been a game changer for cardio, endurance, and the mental aspect is huge too. Like you said, when you get anxious, you get all worked up. If you just focus on your breathing, you can calm everything down and get to that relaxed state.
Absolutely. It's a great way to reset your mind before you have anything to do, whether it's a big business meeting or you're making lunch for your family. Like, you can really help you to just get focused.
For sure. In all ways, anytime, anywhere. Love it.
Love it. Exactly. It's the most affordable and convenient remedy that there is.
A lot of times you talk about using it with the movement in yoga. How important is that? Like, doing it with the movements, I don't know, coordinated.
Yeah, that it just takes the meditation into a moving practice. So you're matching that element of being present, connected with your breath, but then connecting it with the movements of your body. So I find it just deepens that interconnection more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That brings up one of my questions that I had about yoga is some of the poses are kind of difficult to do physically. So how do you balance the being in your mental state and relaxed, calm, but also not letting the difficult poses, the physicality, pulling you out of that mental state?
Yeah. That right there is a pure example of what the yoga practice is, kind of in a nutshell. I forget exactly where I read this, but it was described that all these poses really are just putting our bodies in different shapes and learning how to be calm in those positions. Learning how to be calm and to breathe and be still. So they parallel with scenarios off of our mat. So when things come really, really challenging or really difficult, and we get all these thoughts, these emotions, oh my God, I can't do this. This is impossible. Why the hell is she making me do this? Like, all these things come to the surface. But then what we're put in front of us is, okay, I have to find a way to breathe and be calm in this state that's creating such mayhem inside of me.
Amazing.
And then when you're able to master that on the mat, it becomes not necessarily like you're going to walk through it with like, super ease, but it does make it easier to approach those difficult situations. Yeah.
For sure. You can perform under pressure.
Exactly.
Because you've been there before on the mat and you worked through it and you survived. So you proved it to yourself, and you can do that in real life in any other scenario.
Exactly.
That's another great thing that I've learned from jiu-jitsu is you're getting smashed by someone, you're underneath, but what are you going to do? You can't just stop. Like, you got to stay calm, work your way out of there. What's the next step? And let's get out of this. And that translates great to real life. And like you said, I feel that in yoga too.
And the other parallel I love with that is the beginner's mindset. So never going in to your yoga practice, and with anything, like, you have it all. Like, I got this. There's no way. There's no room for improvement. I got it. I'm perfect. Because then that's just going to set us up for an expectation that might be unrealistic. So if you go look at a posture and you think, oh my God, I'm never going to get there, that's going to work the same way. It's going to be like, oh my God, this is always going to be a challenge for me. But if you approach with that beginner's mindset of, okay, yes, this is hard. Yeah, this is difficult, but I know I can do it if I give it time, if I give it attention, if I am patient, which is the biggest one, is patience. But yeah, because just having that faith and that trust in yourself is another big part of the challenge, right?
Definitely. And I think that's another beautiful aspect that translates over to real life incredibly well.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much parallels.
Awesome. And I think that's why I fell in love with it first day. I was like, I'm going to be doing this probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
First class. I was like, I'm sold.
And I believe the practice finds people. Like, you might say, oh, I found yoga this day, but no, I think it finds us when we're ready, when we need it the most. Yeah.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your backstory of yoga, how you got into it, and your journey along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I did gymnastics from all the way up till I was about 18, 19 years old. And then it was back in 2011 was when I took my first yoga class. I remember I took, before then, my roommate in college was like, hey, why don't you try this yoga class with me? And I was a really big party girl. And I was like, I looked at her on the floor with this laptop, and I was like, I sat down and I was like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. I think I lasted like 2 minutes or maybe, I don't even know. And I went downstairs and started partying with the neighbors. And I laugh at that because now I'm like, this is my life. I love it. But so that happened. And then maybe it was about, I don't know how many months later, five or so months later, when I was home for that winter break and took that one class, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bikram yoga, the original Hot 26.
Okay.
Yes. But it's preferred as Hot 26 now. But it's a 90-minute class in a 104, 106-degree room. It's the same set poses. It's 26 poses, and you do the same thing every single time. There's no downward dog. There's no chaturanga. There's no, but it's very rigid, and I think that's what made me fall in love with it was the almost like this militant order of it, like
some structure.
Yeah, the structure. I think I liked because it reminded me of ballet. How it has this like, okay, this is the form. This is how it's supposed to be, and I like the challenge. I like that I was able to do it. That was also, I'm not going to lie about that. I could get into wheel right away. I could do all these things, and it just felt good in my body. It felt right, but the Savasana part was all new to me because I didn't have any spiritual practice going into it. And I was like, I don't know what this is all about, but okay, I'll just hang out and I'll lay. And the class was taught completely in silence until the end. She would put music on for Savasana. And I remember one day after the class, I was in Savasana, and all of a sudden I opened my eyes and there's no music playing. There's nobody in the room. I was the only one there. And I was like, wow, what just happened?
Yeah.
And in the moment I saw like a white light. Like I just saw this big white light, and I don't really know how to describe it besides like, I don't know, just this beaming white light. And then when I was describing this to her, she was like, you had a Kundalini experience. And I was like, a what? I'm like, what does that mean? She was like, you had a state where you were in a pure higher consciousness, a level of like pure bliss where that you were just in a peaceful state. Like, I didn't really know how else to describe it. And I was just like, oh, whoa, this is weird.
Whoa.
And that's when I got even more interested in, okay, what is behind this yoga practice? There's something deeper. And to this day, I've never experienced that same feeling, because I have learned since then that once you want something, like once you want that state, like now, of course, I would love to experience that again, but because it's a strong desire, it's never going to be achieved. Not never, but
it's like
tough
because you're chasing it.
Yeah.
And trying to force it.
Yes. It's like you kind of have to let it go and let it be organic. And I think that's why I was able to achieve it, because I didn't know. It wasn't a thing in my world yet.
Right.
And so it was so pure. And I was like, oh, wow. I'm about to like kind of go off the rail here, but I'm like, it just shows us how, it shows us how, like the more we know, sometimes it can affect like the reality of things, and, in good and bad ways. Yeah.
Definitely. It can blind you in some cases.
Yeah.
So Savasana.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Shavasana.
Shavasana.
Yeah, I might not be doing it perfectly, but yeah, Shavasana.
Okay, so I didn't really know what that was when I first came in, and I've just been learning from doing it over and over, but I still don't know exactly what it is. I've got an idea, but for people that don't really know about yoga, can you explain it?
Yeah. It's Shavasana is the Sanskrit term. In English, it's known as corpse pose. But it's the end of the yoga practice where we are in stillness. I usually try to aim for at least 5 minutes, but the longer the better. It's a point of meditation, and the yoga poses themselves are designed to really exhaust our mind, our body, and our organs, so that our body can be in a still state for however long it may be. Some people might go into a meditation that could be for hours, depending on their personal practice. But so that point is a point of your body, you to kind of connect with that higher self. You can leave the physical body, be in that state of samadhi or enlightenment or blissful peace, and just experience that blissful peace. Yeah.
Yes, that's one of my favorite parts of the practice.
Yeah.
And you always say, this is what the whole practice is for this moment right here. And that is when I try my best to be present and just stay there and peaceful and just let everything else go. And after that, I come out of the practice feeling incredible. Like, there's just weight lifted off my shoulders. I feel like a new man. I'm just like, that was great.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what it was, but after doing it a few times, I started getting a better idea. Okay, we just lay here.
We just lay here.
And do nothing and just be in the moment. So it was a little weird the first time. I was like, what's going on? I was like, am I doing this right? But the more I do it, and now that I know you just lay there and just be present, I'm like, this is my favorite part.
Yeah. And sometimes it also can be the hardest pose, because it's hard for us to be still. It's hard for us to not think of anything. The mind, that's what it does. It's always going. So that's why it is one of the most important parts of the practice, is because it's applied throughout the practice. But then when you're at this point of, okay, now I'm left with literally nothing else to do, how do I be still?
For sure. You had that incredible experience.
Yes.
From there, where to go?
So from that point, I started going to the studio all the time. I left the college I was going to at that time and started going to a commuter school near in Boston. So anyway, went to the studio regularly, and I started doing a kind of like a work trade for her. She became my first teacher, this owner. Wonderful woman, very tough. Some people didn't like her because she was very tough. and I think
you liked that.
I liked her, and I think that I liked that because a lot of my ballet teachers were like that. Kind of go backtrack for a minute. My ballet teacher that I had in college, for the first 2 years, I swear she hated me. I thought she was out to get me. And it wasn't until my 3rd year with her that I realized it was because she really liked me.
Yeah.
She thought that she saw a lot of potential in me. And so she would constantly pull me out and make me do things alone or to put me on the spot. And I hated it at the moment. But then once I realized, oh, wait, it's because you see something in me and you're pushing me.
Yes.
I was like, wow, okay, I like that. And I saw that in Katrina. It was this woman's name, the owner of the studio, and I was just like, okay, I can learn something. I can learn something from you. And so she offered to do an exchange where she would train me under her wing to teach this style of yoga class, and in exchange, I would take classes for free. So
Awesome.
yeah, so that was the beginning of my teaching career.
Wow. How old were you?
I was, okay, I'm really bad with math. I'm going to say I was around 19 years old,
Okay.
19 or 20.
What was that like, becoming a teacher at 19?
It was interesting. Well, it was definitely untraditional because I didn't go through a standard training. I literally just learned under her wing, because she would tell me, she's like, hey, you can go back at this time. Bikram was doing his trainings out in Las Vegas for like 10 grand. Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And so she was like, you could go do this, or you could just like stay here and I'll train you. And of course, me being this like freshman, sophomore in college, I was like, absolutely. I was like, I'm not gonna
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'm like, I cannot do that right now. So beyond that, I'm happy I didn't go that route because of the whole Bikram stuff. Anyway, so I started working for her. So it got to a point where we were working together for a while, and then we started getting into some differences and some misagreements, I should say.
Okay.
And I started looking at other studios to teach at. Not to teach at, getting ahead of myself, to practice. And I stumbled upon a yoga studio called Open Doors, which is a franchise near a town where I grew up in. And they offered the heated yoga, which I was looking for, was the heat. And it was hot power yoga. Vinyasa yoga was the style. And I went in to this 60-minute class, and I was like, oh my God, we can go on our hands. We can go down. We can do things beyond this 26 pose format. Like we can listen to music the entire time. It was just a whole different dialogue, a whole bunch of different poses that I never knew existed.
Unlocking new possibilities.
Literally. And I was like, wait. And a big thing in Bikram too, or Hot 26, is they're really against using props, like no blocks, no nothing. And here they're handing me blocks, they're handing me all this stuff, and I'm like, what is this? What do I use these for? Like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that just opened a whole new world of, like you just said, like possibility and curiosity for me in the yoga realm. So let's see. So I stopped teaching for her, and then I started just practicing over at this studio. And then so I'm still in college at this time. And I was working as a bartender, and I started working at a gym because I learned that if you work at these places, you don't have to pay for memberships. So
There you go.
I started working at
Working the system.
Exactly. Yes. So I was working at this gym in the daycare, and I was doing yoga, and I started taking yoga classes there at the gym, and the owner knew how badly I wanted to be a yoga teacher. But it was something that I knew I wanted to dedicate my full attention to. So I waited until I was done with college because I didn't want to do both at the same time. However, he said, we need a personal trainer, and if you get certified, I'll give you a job. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in. I was dabbling in strength training at the time, so I was pretty curious about it. And so I did that certification, started personal training. This is back in 2014. And I started teaching Barre fitness as well, which is like a ballet inspired fitness method, which I still do that today too.
Okay.
And so that got me into the fitness world. That kind of got me into all of that. And so I was personal training all through college. And then it was in 2016 when I did my first 200-hour yoga teacher training.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first official training.
My first official training.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In the books.
Okay.
Yes.
Real quick, I want to pause you there. You mentioned you had this desire to be a teacher. Where do you think that came from?
Well, I think it's because I would look up to all these other yoga teachers that I found online. One of the big ones I followed, her name is Rachel Brathen, but she's known as Yoga Girl in the interweb world. And I was like fascinated with all the things that she was doing. And I thought, wow, how cool would it be if one day I could do this for work? Like I could make this practice something that I love so much and get paid to do it. Like, wow, that'd be really cool. And so the way behind that is to become a teacher. And then there's other ways, of course, you can open a studio and do all sorts of things. But yeah, that's what kind of got me into that aspect.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, being personal trainer and starting to teach group fitness, that helped a lot too. That made me kind of be like, okay, now I can see how I can put together these elements. Yeah.
What do you love about being a teacher?
What do I love about being a teacher? I love the connection. I love being able to hold a space for people. Yoga has become such a healing method for me, a space of refuge. And I know people go for all sorts of reasons. So I like being able to be a safe space and to see, like what you mentioned at the end of your Savasana, that relief, that feeling of, okay, everything's okay right now. And just to be able to give that little bit of peace, because it's so valuable and we're not able to get enough of it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to be a teacher someday too, for that same reason. Just seeing how the teachers have helped me in my life. I'm like, I want to be able to give that to someone else. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah. And I laugh in the beginning because when I don't look at myself as a teacher, like I don't see, like, I'm like, I don't know. Even when you asked about this, I'm like, what does he want to know from me? I'm like, what do I have to offer? So it's always kind of like, whoa, okay, me, a teacher. But I just try to be real. I just, cause I go back to that beginner's mindset. Like, I don't know everything, I can't walk around like I am that person, because then that will be the ego-driven self, and that's another part of the practice, is we want to get away from that. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, I've been trying to conquer my ego as well, and acknowledging it is one of the first steps, is realizing that it's there and that's not you.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to learn how to put it aside and be my true self. Can you talk a little bit about that? Your journey with the ego?
Oh, yeah. That constant battle.
For sure.
I feel like I'm really getting face to face with that right now in my life, to be very vulnerable. I recently lost my mother this past January.
Oh my gosh. So sorry.
Thank you. And it's been a huge transition for me, and for my whole life. And I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm learning that this healing aspect, or this desire to separate ourselves from our ego, it never ends.
It never ends.
It never really ends. And I'm actually discovering a lot of things about myself that I didn't really know were true. Because when you're surrounded by those that you love or people you care for, I'm not saying you forget about yourself, but it's easier to put aside things that might not be as important, or something that you might choose to ignore because it's just, there's other things to tend to.
Right.
So having just myself really to look after is weird. It's so weird. But I guess I'm learning, I'm finding that I'm just becoming a different person. The more I separate myself from my ego, because this whole life we put on different facades, and I definitely have had this face of, I'm a very happy person, I'm very bubbly, I'm very positive, and which I do strive to be, but I've been questioning more and more about how much of that is me being authentic, or is it because I feel like I have to be this way in front of people?
100%.
Yeah. And that's been like the biggest, like, holy shit moment
Yeah.
so far.
I feel like that's a challenge for everyone, especially with social media nowadays, like
Yeah.
Instagram. You see the bright side of everyone, and you don't see the dark side that
No.
everyone's battling,
Yeah.
those inner demons that people are struggling with, because everyone's life looks like paradise on social media.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is something I've been working on myself, just trying to overcome the ego and just be your true self. Just be authentic. You don't need to front or flex on anybody. Like,
Yeah.
just be you and live in the moment
Exactly.
and build that connection.
Yeah, and there's really no like one way about it. I I like to try to do as many things as I can, but then by doing that, I tend to overwhelm myself. So what has helped me is to find one thing and try to focus on that for the day.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great tip.
Just one, because if we try, okay, I'm gonna drink this much water a day, I'm also gonna work out this many hours, I'm gonna do this, and then all of a sudden it becomes like too stressful, overwhelming, and it's like, how are these things gonna better me when I feel like they're now becoming more chores to add to my list? So if you can find one thing, and affirmations have been a really big one for me lately.
Okay.
It ebbs and flows, what works for me, and it's going to happen for everybody.
Yeah.
Some days it's journaling, some days it's meditation, some days it's affirmation, some days it's getting outside,
How did the affirmations work, or the form?
Yeah. So I find one of my favorite quotes from Gandhi is be the change you wish to see in the world. But I like to switch it and say, be the love you wish to see in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So the way you can apply it is like whenever you're doing anything, like you're washing dishes, for example, a chore might not be enjoyable, not want to do it. But if you can revert or transform it into doing it with love, be the love you want to be, you want to see, then okay, you're going to be more care. You're going to take more care, more mindfulness into the action. You're thinking of your why. Oh, this is so that we can have clean dishes later. This is so that when I come home this afternoon, I'm not going to have a headache because I'm going to see this mountain of dishes here. Or I don't know. It's just a way to, maybe that was a horrible example.
No, it was a good one.
But, or if you're going into a difficult conversation with somebody that you might not get along with very well, you can think, okay, how can I do this with love? How can I be the love that I want to see in the world?
Wow.
How can I
That's
approach
powerful.
this? Yeah, right? Like, how can I approach this conversation from a point of love? Yeah.
That's tough to do.
That's really hard, especially with people that we know we're not going to get along well with.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But going in with that state of mind
Mm-hmm.
is going to change the result and the outcome of ultimately what you're trying to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah, because if we go in already thinking, oh my God, they're going to annoy me, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I've been reading this book on repeat lately. It's called The Secret. I don't know if you heard of it.
I have, and I have not read it. I'm a horrible reader.
No, you're good. I do audiobooks because
Oh, great. I've been told I need to do that.
It's about the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And the main point of the book is whatever you're thinking about, that's what you're going to attract. And whatever you're thinking, believing, feeling, that's what you're going to attract, whether it's good thoughts or bad thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, going into doing those dishes like you love them, it's going to change everything, your whole night.
Exactly.
Just because that's your state of mind and you just feel good
Yeah.
instead of feeling, oh, I got to do the dishes again.
Yes.
And then it's like you're going through the night like a drag, like doing these chores. And instead you're in a state of bliss. Doing dishes.
Right. And then that's what makes life this beautiful paradise, is by making the mundane things so special. Yeah.
Awesome. So I heard this great quote by Mike Tyson, and it's kind of talking about the dishes that you mentioned.
Okay.
He says, discipline is doing what you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it.
Yes. This is so true. Because we can either accept our situation as it is, or we can fight it, right? Like the same amount of energy is going to be used towards being excited about something or being nervous or angry about something. So it's like, okay, I can choose. do I want?
I can choose.
I can choose. Yeah. Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's a big one. And we forget that. It's easy. Our mind is naturally going to go into a negative spot because it's a way to protect. It's a way, because when it sees danger, it thinks, oh my God, protect. So we put ourselves as the victim all the time.
Yes.
And it's,
why me?
Why me? Why me? Why does this happen to me? And we forget that the world, there's another podcast I listen to as well. And he says, the world is as you are. So yeah. So like the way, if in my mind everything is shit, then outside, yes, everything is going to be like shit.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, discipline. If you can go into something with discipline, then yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get back to your story. We were, I think, somewhere at the gym. You started this course?
Yes. So, so I graduated college back in 2015, and then I was like, okay, yoga time. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Which is funny because if I could go back, I mean, I don't regret going to college by any means. It was definitely a great experience, but I wish I wasn't so pressured to go, and I would have probably given myself more time, probably would have gone into yoga right away. And who knows if I would have even gone to college.
I think that's pretty huge because I feel like a lot of young people feel that pressure from their parents because that's what successful people do is they go to college.
And a lot of it wasn't, there was some pressure from my parents. I didn't feel it so much from them. I honestly felt it mostly from my school and from my town. I was in a very affluent town in the suburbs, and it was, I just have this one memory of they would post all of the acceptance letters along the hallway of kids who got into college. And I know they probably did it in a way of celebrating and being, this is exciting. But then it made people who didn't get accepted to college or who maybe weren't thinking of going kind of feel like crap. Yeah. And so it kind of felt like, I have to. Like I have to do this. All my peers are doing it. Uh-huh. All my counselors are pushing me to do this. So anyway, here we are many years later, still paying my student loans. It's fine. And not working in the career that I went to school for. It's fine. But so anyway, did my 200-hour teacher training, which is kind of like the standard baseline, I'd say, for yoga teacher training hours. There's 200-hour, then you can go to 300, then you can go to 500, and you can pick
like the different tiers of teacher.
Pretty much, it's more just kind of like dedicated study. Okay. You just gain more knowledge, more experience. It can go on and on. There's all sorts of types depending on what type you want to study. If you want to study more Kundalini, if you want to study more Ashtanga, Hatha Yoga, Vinyasa, there's a bunch of different varieties.
As I've been learning.
Yes.
What is this?
There's so much like, wait, what's that? What's this? What do you mean? What? Yeah. There's Yoga Nidra, which is one of I love that one. I always don't do it as much as I should. I forget about it. It's essentially a guided nap, which is like,
interesting.
Look up Yoga Nidra. It's very relaxing.
Are you awake?
You are. You kind of go into a conscious sleep in a way. Like you ebb and flow in and out of the state.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's some that I always do guided ones. There's some that guide you into sleep. There's some that guide you like back out. Like if you're just doing a 20-minute middle of your day reset. But yeah, you go into this like very dreamlike state, like a sleep. Whoa. Yeah.
That brings up really one of the things I wanted to talk about was how you can achieve different mental states with yoga. Mm-hmm. Like things you've never experienced before. Like you said, you had that one incredible experience, or like you're saying, you're drifting in and out of sleep. Like that's not a regular thing.
No,
for most people, I guess.
It's just getting very into that deep, relaxed state and feeling safe too. Like feeling safe in your body and where you are in that moment. Is really what allows you to just fully let go.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Being safe within yourself too, trusting, okay, like this is okay. I can relax. I can let go.
Because we're always on guard.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in this world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Always Definitely. On guard.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were we?
So I did my teacher training at Balance Studio in Cohasset, Massachusetts, which I absolutely love. That's one of my hometown studios. Shout out to them. They're doing amazing, great things. And, but yeah, so I've only done my 200-hour training for my yoga practice specifically, because it was such a deep, it was about 6, maybe 9 months of study. And, it was just so much information that I still am processing it to this day.
Wow.
Like I still feel like there's elements that I could go back into my manual and be like, yep, I can relearn that. Yeah. And there's many teachers who do multiple 200-hour trainings, and I definitely am going to do more. I just have been dabbling in a lot of other modalities since then, that complement the yoga practice for sure. And I'm always learning. I just came back from a training on fascia stretch therapy out in Arizona, which is that could be a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, so I have been teaching almost full time since then, off and on. I average about like 13 classes a week, give or take. And yeah.
So what brought you from Boston to New Mexico?
My mother, actually, she brought me out here. Yeah. So she was a nurse for 50 years. And when she retired, she always had this dream of moving to New Mexico.
Really?
Yes. So she, as a kid, they lived in Albuquerque for a few years, and they would vacation down to this area. And they'd go to Juarez and stuff on their holidays. And, so she always wanted to come back. And my mother was a server. Like she was for the people by heart. She was always in an active service. There's the term.
Is that where you get it from?
I think so. I think so. I would definitely say it's from her. So her mission was she wanted to help along the border. So she wanted to live as close as she could. And yeah, and so Las Cruces, that's what brought her here. Unfortunately, she ended up getting diagnosed with cancer, so she wasn't able to do her mission to help at the border, but she still helped at a local food pantry here. So awesome. She never fully stopped. She's my true role model for sure. But awesome. Anyway, so this was back in 2020 when we were making all this decision. And of course, that's when everything was closed with the quarantine and COVID and all that stuff. So I was a assistant manager at a boutique fitness studio in Boston at the time. And it closed. Sadly, it was only open for about 1.5 years before COVID hit. Yeah. And so that closed and was devastating, but it left me with a blank slate. And I thought, I have always wanted to live outside of Massachusetts. I never have. And here's my chance. So I told her, hey, I'm going to come with you. So I moved with her. So yeah, January 2021, we hit the road, packed everything up, and drove across country.
Wow.
With all 4 animals.
Fresh start.
Yep. Fresh start. Or 3. Actually, we only had 3 animals at the time. I got my dog when I moved here. But yeah, so that's what got me here.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
This was 21, January 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what'd you think of New Mexico? First impression?
I loved it.
Really?
I loved it. It was it is so different than Massachusetts.
I can imagine.
My biggest like whoa moment was the space. I was like, holy crap, this is just open. No skyscrapers. I can see the sky, mountains. The sky is amazing. Every day it's beautiful. I was living just out. I didn't live necessarily in Boston, but I was living right outside of it. And my whole life I tried to convince myself I was a city girl. I'm like, well, I live outside of Boston. I must be a city person. But then moving here made me realize that's not true. I am very much a peaceful dweller. I like the simplicity. I like the peacefulness. 'Cause I am a very high anxiety person, and I didn't realize how much that affected me living in a city in a high strung environment. That being here, it's just so much more peaceful. I do miss the ocean. That I will say. I miss the ocean. I don't miss the snow, but yeah. I do love it here.
I do too.
Yeah.
I was born and raised here, and I've always loved it.
Yeah.
I moved away. My first job out of college, I went out to Dallas. I wasn't in Dallas, but I was about 40 minutes out.
Okay.
And I enjoyed my time there. It was great, but I missed home.
Mm-hmm.
I missed New Mexico, the land, the country, the people,
Yeah.
like you said, the peacefulness, the land of enchantment. There's just something about it.
It's so true.
I love it here.
Yeah, and that's the hospitality. That was another breathtaking thing. I was like, and I don't want to bash on Bostonians. I mean, yes, okay, maybe massholes can be true, but not for all, not for everyone. But here is just so different. Like, I'm having conversations with the folks at the drive-thru at Starbucks. Like, what? Like, full-on conversations. Like, and there might be a line, but they're cool. They're chill. Like, people are just so kind, and so they're like, oh, I'm being called hija by so many people. I don't know. It just feels so welcoming, and I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the city lifestyle is more distractions and keeping you out of that state of presence. It's just so much going on, the chaos, the anxiety.
It is, and I love that it's called the land of manana here sometimes. Have you heard that one?
I haven't heard that.
You haven't heard that one?
No.
I've heard the land of manana because like they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll get to it tomorrow,
Yeah.
or like, or you call, I don't know, plumber or someone and like, yeah, I'll get there tomorrow, or they'll say they'll be there in the afternoon, but they really the next day. But it's just because it's such a relaxed vibe out here, and I love it. And even when I'm in those situations and I'm like, oh my God, this is taking so long. Like the city person in me is coming out and I'm getting agitated and I'm just like, chill. What is the rush? Like, really? Where are you really going right now? That is so important.
I think that's something pretty important right there, is having that self-awareness to catch yourself and say, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you freaking out about?
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
And then bring yourself back. Boom. And that's something that I feel like yoga helps teach you.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Just to be back in the now, back in your body,
Back in the now.
back in your presence. Yeah. Because especially when we get into a high strung situation, that's when we leave our body. We go into reaction mode, defense mode. And yeah, that's when the yoga practice can really be a savior in relationships and who knows what could come from it. But yeah.
For sure. Another thing you talk about in yoga is intention. Can you tell us a little bit more about what intention means to you?
Yeah. So where your attention goes is where your energy will flow. So that's kind of like your intention. So I could get fuzzy because of course you can like intend on something, but it might not come out that way. But I feel when I apply it to the yoga practice, to be specific, like my intention is to create peaceful harmony within myself, or my intention is to be with my breath for the next 60 minutes. I think it just helps to really reinforce that why you're there on the mat, like why you're like what you're trying to get out of it, like or else you could just be going in there, I don't know, blind, which I mean, when I say that too, that also could be a really good thing. Actually kind of going in without expectation, that is a good thing. But it just, I think it just helps anchor you into being into the present, into why you're doing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like that relates to the book, The Secret, as well. Like where your attention goes, your energy flows.
Yes.
Whatever you're thinking about, you think it into existence.
Yes.
And intention can play a huge role in that, in the practice, but I think outside too. Yeah.
It can show us, it can open our mind as to where we're living, like where we're focusing the most, because that's where most of our time, that's where all of our time goes. And you can either spend it, scrolling through Instagram for 30 minutes or, I don't know, reading a book.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, intention is powerful. You can definitely apply it to social media as an example, because I mean, I definitely get lost in those tunnels.
We all do.
All the time, those wormholes. And instead of being like, okay, I'm going to open this up and go into a wormhole, you could be like, okay, my intention is I'm going to make a post, or I'm going to message this person, and try to make it intentional.
Yes. Yeah.
But
you can
easily
be more focused with your energy.
Yes. We can easily get
Instead
distracted.
of just letting it go where it
Scatter.
wants. Like,
yeah. Then that you can feel that right there in those moments, that like outer body, because then you come back and you're like, whoa, where did that time just go? What just happened?
flies by.
It's crazy.
Definitely. So we were talking about something about the yoga, which made me think of something that, intention. One of my intentions commonly in practice is to get my body into alignment, which I have been struggling with since I discovered, I've always known I had flat feet, but I didn't think there was anything I could do about it. I just thought it was a way of life. Like I was born with flat feet. So one day I was standing in the shower and I'm like, my balance sucks. Why does my balance suck so bad? This has to be a learnable skill. And I got down in like this duck walk position and I couldn't even stay stable. I'm like wobbling. I'm like, what is going on? So, and then I shifted my feet from the pressure on the inside to the outsides, and then stability. I was like, what? And then I stood up. My knees were in line. I was like, no way. Have I been standing wrong my entire life for 25 years? Sure enough, I did some YouTubing, like how to properly stand. And I'm like, wow, I've been standing wrong on the insides of my feet and you're supposed to be on the outsides. I'm like, wow. So
I have that same problem.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Pronating?
Yes.
Crazy. So since then, I've been on this journey of trying to get my body back into alignment, because I'm sure you know it starts with your feet, then works up to your knees, then your hips, then your shoulders, and your neck, and your whole body's out of whack. Yes. And it's been a journey trying to get this sucker back in line, because it's like, we've done this for 25 years. We're not changing now. I'm like, oh, yes, we are. So, yeah. So it's getting that alignment has been something that I try to focus on in these poses in yoga. And because we're in these funky positions, and thinking about that alignment can help me get there sometimes. And I wanted to ask you how your journey with alignment has been.
A constant journey for sure. Like what you just mentioned with the pronation, my feet do that too, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I went to the doctors not that long ago, and they were like, he like put my socks under the arches of my feet and he was like, doesn't that feel better? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And of course he was like, you should probably go get shoes that have arches or like arch support. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I will. And here I am. I'm like, no, but I am focusing just like you are whenever I'm in my yoga practice, whenever I'm standing in Tadasana, mountain pose, whenever I'm standing in line at the grocery store, I constantly will stand in one hip. And a lot of us do that. All of us do that pretty much. And just being like, no, both feet. And then grounding, like you said, in the outer edges of my feet and my toes. I try to make sure my toes stay flat so I'm not like totally on the outer edge of my feet. But I find how it connects with the yoga practices. It's our proprioception. So it's our connection of where our body is in space. Oh. Yeah. And by getting deeper into that connection, that awareness of, oh, my alignment is off. Oh, this feels weird when I stand this way. Oh, this muscle activates when I do this. That just brings more connection with ourself. Yeah. But it could go even into deeper into emotions, really. Like our body holds different emotions and different energies. And sometimes they can go dormant, like the proprioception or the awareness in those certain spots based on whether it be trauma, it could be physical trauma, like a shoulder injury, or emotional trauma, an experience, heartache. So we hold a lot of things in our hips. And so the more you become connected with, whether it be a misalignment or whether it be a high tension area, and you kind of nurse it and you fine tune it and you connect more with it, you're able to heal other layers of yourself beyond that physical self.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. And I think the misalignment sometimes causes the tension.
Oh yeah.
And, my hips are definitely a problem because they're not just off up and down. They're also off in and out. So it's two different planes. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get these lined up? But it starts with the feet. Getting my feet first and just thinking about it, and I can consciously feel getting my hips in the correct position, and then trying to line my spine up and get my shoulders right, because one hip's sagging, then a shoulder's sagging, then your neck's tilted, and
It's a
all
domino
connected.
effect.
It's
It
all
is.
connected.
And that is huge right there, to be that aware of your body. There are so many of us walking around that don't have that awareness. And it makes me sad, because instead of saying, oh, my knee hurts or my hip hurts, I can heal myself by connecting with my body. We go to the doctor, and I'm not against medicine. I'm not against anything like that. But they're helping to numb it, not necessarily fix it. So they're giving the drugs, they're giving the cortisone shots, they're giving
treat the symptoms, not address the root issue.
Exactly. And of course, those are going to be a quicker fix. That's going to be almost an instant result. Whereas when you go the latter route, it's going to take time. It's not going to be a one and done fix. It's going to be a lifelong thing, years, forever, if anything, or the whole life. But it's going to create more life. It's going to create more longevity. And you'll also gain, beyond feeling good, you'll feel trust in yourself because you were able to achieve that. And the body, I truly 100% believe that the body can heal itself if it's given half a chance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The body's incredible.
It really is.
With all the stuff we put into ourselves nowadays and the torture we put it through, it's insane how resilient we are. And it just keeps going and adapting and overcoming. And
we just keep molding.
Yeah.
It's incredible, the human body, but it also makes you realize how precious it is.
Yes.
And a lot of the things we don't realize because we can't see it. Like, we can't see our organs, we can't see our brain, but we see our skin, we see our face, we see our muscles. So we focus on the outside appearance, but we don't realize so much, all these toxins and all this different stuff that we're doing to our body, what it's actually affecting. Because some of these things don't develop until 10, 20 years down the road. And I mean, we could go into a whole different conversation here with this, but yeah.
Definitely. And that's part of what a lot of my content is about, is avoiding these toxins and cleaning up, not putting these harmful chemicals in your body whether you're eating them or personal care products.
Yeah.
And because there's so much crap in all of our food and products.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. And I'm like, and you don't realize it. I mean, it's just a way of life. Like, you use the soap, you use the fragrance, and you eat the bread. It's like
everything's become so normal.
Yes.
It's become so normal. So normal that the blind's eye won't know what's a toxin and what's not. Like fragrance, I'm learning, like, fragrance is horrible, and it's in everything.
Endocrine disruptors, blocking our hormones.
Huge. And it's in everything. It's like,
everything.
Oh my God, we can't escape it. Yeah. I mean, we say our skin is our biggest organ that's connected with the world, but I believe it's not. It's our mouth. Like, what we put, the food is the biggest thing that's connecting to our body. Because it's
It's the one thing that you put in you.
Yeah.
Like,
that
we are what we eat.
Exactly.
And it sounds cliche, but we are literally, our DNA is composed of the materials that you put inside us.
And different things take longer to move through our systems. And it is so true. Once you fully embrace that you are what you eat, it will change your world. Yeah.
Oh, it has for me.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I started by, when I found out about folic acid, I don't know if you've heard about it, in bread, and it's added, and they call it enriched or fortified.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in almost everything.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'm cutting all that out. Just see what happens. So I ate meat and potatoes every day.
Yep.
Lost 10 pounds. And I was already thin, like trim. 10 pounds. I was like, what the heck? That's crazy. All right. So then I started doing a little more research, looking into more stuff. Coincidentally, when I wasn't eating the bread, I wasn't eating any cheese. So, because it wasn't on the sandwiches or whatever.
And it's funny how we feel we don't actually crave it, or you don't need it, right?
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. So one day I was like, some cheese would go really good on these potatoes. So I threw some cheese on there. The next day, my acne flared up, which I didn't realize it had almost gone away. And I was like, what? Don't tell me it's the cheese. No. So I cleared myself up. Tried it again, flared up. Cheese has been the source of my acne, and I've had terrible acne since the 7th grade.
Wow.
Crazy. And I'd eat tons of ice cream, all these dairy products.
And who would have known?
Who would have known?
Yep.
So since then, I cut out the dairy. Acne cleared up.
Mm-hmm.
Cut out the bread. I just felt great. I was never bloated. And then I started doing a little more research about the dairy products and finding out the pasteurization process. They heat up the dairy because they have to kill the bad bacteria whenever they're harvesting it, because they're mass-produced harvesting it. So it gets dirty. So they got to heat it up to clean it up. But during that process, they kill the bad bacteria. However, they also kill the good bacteria, the probiotics, and the enzymes that some people need to digest dairy.
Digest it, yeah.
How many people do you know that can't handle dairy?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot of people.
A lot. So since then, I heard that raw milk has those enzymes because it hasn't been pasteurized.
Right.
So I gave it a try. No acne.
Wow.
No acne. So since then, I've been drinking raw milk, and I can find raw cheese at natural grocers and Sprouts. No acne.
No problem.
No problem.
Wow.
And since I've been making these diet changes, all my health symptoms have gone away.
Yeah.
Allergies, asthma, eczema, acne, vanished. They're gone. I'm like, whoa. How many of these
Food
sicknesses that
medicine.
people are experiencing is coming from the food they're eating?
Everything. Oh, 100%. I believe that everything is coming from the food and the chemicals that we're putting into our body.
I think so
Hands
too.
down.
And there's a lot of it,
Yeah.
including mental health issues.
Huge.
We're having a mental health crisis in this country.
Yeah. The overdose of sugar and caffeine and everything. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, we could talk about this a whole
definitely go on
nother
around.
podcast,
Yeah.
but
we'll have to do another one.
yes, we will. So back to the posture and body alignment and balance. Tammy, the other instructor, she brought up this tip because I struggle with the one-legged poses. I'm like wobbling all over the place, and I think it's because of my misalignment. Like my body's
that could be.
struggling to hold itself in place because I'm not in proper form. So one of the things Tammy said that I think improved my balance big time was she said, stabilize the 4 points of your foot, which previously I was picturing it as 3, 1 in your heel and 2 at the top, like your big toe and your pinky toe. And now that I consciously think about 4 points, 2 points in the back of my heel,
like a roller skate,
it gave me so much more stability. Do you have any other tips or recommendations for better balance?
I really focus, finding a focal point, a drishti, is helpful. So something that's not moving.
I heard you mention that.
Yeah. So your mind, your eye, your physical eyes have a single point of focus.
Okay.
That helps. And then really grounding in the standing leg. So I focus, back when I was doing the Bikram practice, they encourage us to lock our knees. Now in most practices, we don't do that. I don't encourage that. For many reasons. But what I got from that was the sensation of the muscles hugging against the bones. So if you can feel like when you're pushing your foot into the ground, that then you're squeezing your muscles and the muscles are trying to hug against the bone.
It gives you like some stability.
Yeah.
It's like it's hugging it.
Right.
Holding it in place.
Yes. And I'm a very visual person. I like to use a lot of imagery when I'm learning things and describing things. And for tree pose, for example, I really envision literal roots going from my feet into the floor.
Awesome.
And you can do that with all standing poses, but thinking of I'm constantly pushing my foot down. Like I'm not just like balanced. I'm pushing. Yeah. So
pushing down on the earth.
Yes. Pushing down on the earth because you give, you receive. The more I'm pushing down, the more the earth is going to push back against my feet and help support me.
For sure.
Yeah. And then I feel like, I don't know, just really sticking it. Just kind of,
I think that's a great tip.
Yeah.
And
then with that rooting down, rising up. So as you're pushing down in your foot, constantly think your body is growing taller. There's no end. It's just you keep going up, 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 up. And then that way your body is just active constantly. It's not going to go to sleep in that pose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great tip.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you also did some bar training. You slightly mentioned it. It's
Yes.
kind of like ballet. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I love Barre. I have a whole spiel for it. It is a ballet inspired fitness method that is based on Pilates.
Okay.
So it focuses on high reps of these small controlled movements that target our major muscles.
Okay.
So it's a low impact exercise, total body exercise. And I really love it because it uses a lot of the moves that I would have done in my ballet, like with the posture essence, like holding yourself up, keeping that alignment, and then adding movement with your extremities. And it also goes with the beat of the music, which I like because that the dancer in me likes to stay on beat. So that's really fun. And it's just like a good high energy workout without without jumping up and down.
Translates well into yoga, I imagine.
It does. They harmonize really well. I teach yoga sculpt, which is a kind of like a cardio workout with yoga inspiration sprinkled in there. But yoga with weights, and I find I do a lot of my Barre movements in that class because they can adapt. They can easily be transferable.
Is Barre primarily like body weight, or are you using free weights too?
It's primarily body weight, but we do use light weights. So I'll use anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds, sometimes 8 if I'm feeling feisty. But usually I stay with my 3 or 5s because, like I said, we do high reps, and those 5 pounds are going to start to feel heavy by rep like 30 or 40. And
sure. Is there more like emphasis on the dance aspect of it, or what makes it Barre?
By utilizing an actual ballet bar is where I feel the name comes from.
Okay.
A lot of formats, especially since COVID, have been adapted to utilizing just a chair, which is where I teach a lot of my classes. We use just a chair because the studio here in town I teach at, they don't have a bar. So it comes from the actual utilizing of a bar. And depending on the teacher, some might have more of a ballet inspiration in the class, more of a ballet flow. They use the ballet terminology, ballet technique. You might have a teacher that has a more of a Pilates approach. So I come from I have a kind of a blend of yoga, ballet, and fitness background. So I kind of harmonize the three.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've grown up strength training, and I've always loved strength training. But recently I've had to learn how to lift light weights and how to make light weights feel heavy.
Yes.
So this happened because I hurt my elbow in jiu-jitsu. I got it hyperextended, so I couldn't lift heavy weight. So that part of that led to me cutting, which led to me cutting out the bread, and that whole journey started because of this. But also because I couldn't lift heavy weight, I was forced to lift lightweight. I started with 2.5 pound dumbbells, and I had to really focus on my posture and body alignment and getting in the proper form and making that lightweight feel heavy.
Yeah.
And that has unlocked a whole new world of training for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it's tapped into other muscles that might not have worked during that exercise.
No doubt. Because before strength training, you're just trying to lift that heavy weight and improve each time. But now I'm like, how can I optimize this rep?
Yeah.
And wow, I've unlocked so much with that. And where was I going to go with that? Oh, and one of the huge aspects of it was the core brace.
Yes.
Which you talk about in yoga a lot, and I love. You say, how do you
Brace
describe
your
it? By
core?
picking up a marble with your belly button?
Picking up a marble with your belly button, drawing the navel, the belly button in and up towards your rib cage. Another visual I'll give is like putting on a tight pair of pants. Yeah.
That has been an absolute game changer in my strength training. Utilizing the core brace in every movement, with every exercise, every rep.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to breathe, so you got to relax it while you're dropping the weight down.
And especially with your pelvis misalignment too. Bracing your core is going to protect your body. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely I can feel it pulling me and holding me in the proper position and stabilizing my body so I can isolate those muscles that we're targeting. And the more I do it with every exercise, it gets more challenging, and that's another way I can make the lightweight feel heavy.
Yeah.
How important is that in the yoga practice, the core brace?
Very important. your core is your center. Everything is stemming from there. So if you think of the foundation of a house, if it's unstable, everything else is going to kind of not do as great. It's not going to perform as well. It's not going to have as good structure. So the same with the body. If the core is unstable, it's going to create instability in the legs and the knees and the ankles and the shoulders. And then if you go with an unstable core into adding external load, like strength training, then then you're going to walk into a lot of injuries and all sorts of stuff, misalignment. And so, or even going into the yoga practice, you, especially if you go into a hot yoga practice, because the heat generates more elasticity in your muscle and in your tendons and all that stuff and your ligaments. And so if you're not bracing your body, not protecting your body, you're just setting yourself up for another chance of hurting yourself, which is definitely not the goal.
No.
Yeah.
We want to avoid those.
Yeah. So connecting to your core goes with connecting to yourself. I have not had children yet in my life, but I do know that there are women who, after having giving birth, whether it's natural or by cesarean, have a hard time connecting with their core muscles again. And that can lead to a lot of kind of disconnect with the body, because it's losing that connection with your center, with your core. Of course, it's
Your
able
center.
to, yes.
Your center of gravity, your center of everything.
Yeah. And of course, it's able to become connected with again, and women do. But it just reinforces its importance of the stability. And a lot of our serotonin gets produced from the gut.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, the gut.
Yes, from the gut. Yes. That's why a lot of times when we eat, we get happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Definitely the food affects the brain through the gut-brain axis. I've been learning about that. The gut microbiome. It's alive.
It's alive.
And it communicates directly with your brain.
Yes, and it connects with our hormones. So they had the gut and the brain share a team mechanism with our hormones and how they function.
And you think the core brace can affect that as well?
I guess I derailed with that. The core brace, I don't know if necessarily would connect with that.
But just the act of connecting with the core.
But the act of being able to connect, because, I think that just in general just helps overall with connecting with your body.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's helped me insane. Like, I can't explain how much it's changed everything.
And it's the simplest things. Like you can brace your core, and not necessarily like suck in, like that's like the cliche, like suck in your gut. It's like that's what's corrupted our brains so much, is being told to suck it in. So it's not that. It's more of like a protection. So like
kind of like flexing your abs.
Exactly. Or like when you're about to like sneeze or something. But thinking of it, obviously if I'm sitting down watching TV, I don't have to fully have my core engaged. But when you become aware of it, like, when you're going to go pick up a tissue, or maybe there's a puppy or a toddler is on the floor and you're going to go pick them up. When you lean over, you are bracing your core so you're not going to pull your back. Yeah.
For sure. People, especially people with injuries and older people, just to help support the rest of your body, you brace that core and you're just stronger. Your body's a whole unit.
You feel connected.
Yes. I can't emphasize enough the importance of the core brace. It's been a game changer. Yeah. So another thing kind of tied in with the core brace is the hip alignment, which I've been learning about is your hips being an extension or
yes.
I don't remember the other word for it.
Yeah, like a posterior or anterior tilt.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And knowing when to do which one and being able to utilize that during workouts and stuff. And I think it applies in yoga poses as well.
Oh, for sure.
But just being aware of your hips and whether they're tilted in the correct position for what you're doing is also a game changer. Like, it's especially for lifting, like you can really change the muscles you're targeting by the angle of your hips.
Yeah. And that relates to your transverse abdominals, those lower abdominals, because a lot of times, and especially with our like big booty culture right now,
sticking it out.
Yeah, people are like overarching their back, and it's
Yeah.
actually causing a lordotic curve. It's creating that anterior tilt of the pelvis, and which day to day we don't want it stuck like that.
Right.
But finding that posterior tilt, so kind of the tail tucking under,
Tail tuck, yes.
but it's finding the sweet spot between those two. Yeah. That's
Nice.
where our true alignment, because the spine has a natural curve to it. It's just when it's overly done,
Right.
that's when the abdominals aren't engaged, and then your quadratus lumborum, this muscle, this deep muscle in your lower back, will start to contract, and that's what makes your back start to arch
And
Yeah.
hurt.
and hurt It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And then it gets tight, and then everything gets tight back there, and then and the spiral effect.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to hit that real quick, but another part of the core brace,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, is you can also use that with your diaphragmatic breathing, is using that core to push your diaphragm to compress your lungs and push that air out. And whenever you get all your air out, that allows you to get a full fresh breath.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't get it all out, when you're breathing in, you're mixing that air with some used up air that's still in there from your previous breath. So you can use that core brace with your diaphragm to push that air out.
Yeah.
And you get it all out. So you get a fresh breath
Absolutely.
of 100% fresh air. And I feel like that's a huge part. Or that I learned that from that book Breathe from the jiu-jitsu guy that I was telling you about earlier. And man, for endurance and cardio, if you focus on that when you're tired, it brings you back way quicker.
Brings you right back. Yeah, and I feel like that deep diaphragmatic breath that you were just describing, if it is also a helpful tool to connect with that bracing of the core. Because a lot of times if we have never experienced it, we don't know what they're talking about. It's like, what do you mean engage my core? How do I do that? It's a lot different than flexing a bicep.
For sure.
So I feel like when you can connect with that breath, you're referring to the exhale, right? As you exhale.
Oh,
Yeah. So when you exhale and there's no breath left in your body, that's when the diaphragm is actually what's pushing and inflating your lungs. So that's creating more air where there's none. And then you have that fresh inhale because your body, it's so deprived of the air that it's naturally like, give me more. So it's like, it rushes in and you get that flood of like, of vitality of like, what you were just saying. Yeah. And it tones. The Ujjayi breath is the nostril breath, and that incorporates that 3-part, that deep belly to lung to collarbone breath. And the more you're able to connect into that, the more you can really find, what that brace feels like. It's like, there it is. Okay. That's what they're talking about.
With those breathing techniques, I've learned that you can do some pretty incredible things. Like Wim Hof is a guy that I learned one of his breathing techniques, and it's to calm yourself down, but he also claims you can heal your body with it. You can cure sickness. You can do all kinds of crazy things. Like one of the crazy things he does is he gets in freezing water, like ice cold water where there's like glaciers around, and he'll get in there for 20 minutes without his core body temperature changing 1 degree.
Wow.
And he does that with his breathing technique.
Wow.
And I'm like, how's that possible? He's in freezing water for 20 minutes and his core body temperature doesn't change. So he's like one of the main guys for the breathing techniques, whatever. So
wow.
It's incredible what the human body's capable of when you learn how to unlock these possibilities with breathing.
Yeah.
Whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, and breathing. I don't know. It's breathing.
Like, it's just tapping in to your inner power. Like, it's not necessarily control, although it could look that way. Like, I am controlling my breath, but it's more like surrendering to it. And just, because I've definitely heard stories of monks like climbing up these mountains and in these ice cold conditions, and same thing, temperature not changing. They're just, their body, they're able to keep that with their connection through their meditation, through their breathing. And it's incredible. It's definitely dedication. I certainly have not done it.
Oh yeah, me either.
I have not challenged myself there. I mean, I would like to someday. That'd be really cool. Maybe in the tub, not so much the mountain,
Yeah.
but it's just incredible what the body can do.
Yes.
What the human body can do. We definitely can heal ourselves through our breath. The breath is the connection to our nervous system. It's how we can, like I said, down-regulate that nervous system, like bring yourself back into that peaceful condition, that peaceful state. And it heals. That's when we can rewire the synapses in our brain, and we can, just create more of that healing energy. I 100% agree with this guy. I got to get his book.
Well, off the breathing and being able to access more or spiritual possibilities, what have you experienced, or are you comfortable sharing your spiritual journey?
Yeah, sure. It's all over the map. I didn't really grow up with any structure in religion. I always knew we were considered Episcopalian, and I still am kind of like vague on what that really is. And ironically, at the time when I first started yoga, my mom, she was a recovered alcoholic, and she kind of got exhausted with AA, and discovered a temple in our hometown, the Vedanta Center, and they study the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita and the Hindu practice of religion. And so she found that very, like, the same year that I started practicing yoga, and that was I was still living with her. I got to see a little bit more. Oh, what is this? What is this spirituality? What is, like, I got curious, and especially with yoga being such a parallel with that as well. So that kind of geared me. The yoga became my spirituality. More so now. I'm still. I wouldn't say I'm a this or I'm a that. I just respect all religion. My father is a Christian pastor, and I see, coming from an outside view, almost all religion share the same values. They share the same kind of keynotes. They're just worded differently, or they,
I totally agree.
Yeah. There's one great book I read during my yoga teacher training called The Anatomy of the Spirit. Highly recommend it. It's a tough read. Like it's intense. But really eye-opening, and it covers a lot of that. So I definitely recommend it. Anywho, so yeah, my spirituality is very much, I definitely believe there's a higher power. I definitely believe we are all spiritual beings living having a human experience. Because for me, it just has to be. It just, like, there has to be something beyond this.
For sure.
Like, this is not the only reason why we're here.
No.
I believe in spirits. I believe in angels. And I know that there is something out there that we can all put good service for, because it's a reflection of all of us.
Yes, we're all connected.
Exactly.
You say something at the end of our practice. What do you say? The divine energy?
The divine energy within me honors and respects the divine energy that's within you. Yeah. Because
what does that mean?
It's essentially, Namaste is a greeting for the divine in me sees and acknowledges the divine in you. And it's traditionally done, as a greeting or towards elders in your community or anybody that you might look up to.
So that's what Namaste means?
Yeah. Okay. Namaste. The divine in me honors the divine in you.
I've heard you say it, and others too. So I was like,
yeah,
I don't know if I should be saying it back.
Yes. Yeah, that's how I've always interpreted it, as that. And I've actually kind of stemmed away from saying it at the end, just because as I'm forever a student as well, and I'm learning more about the practice and its history, and in Hinduism, it's done. Namaste is a greeting, not a departure. So in the end of my practices, I'll end with thank you. There's nothing against anybody who says it. It's just, I'm just learning, there's other things that we can say. So I'll end my class with saying, Om Shanti, 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 welcoming peace among all of us and all living beings. But
what
yeah.
does that mean?
Om Shanti is peace.
Okay.
Peace. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Om is the universal sound of all of us. It's 3 syllables. It's ah, o, and and I like Aum. Yeah. And I remember I was seeing, I believe it was Shiva Ray, who is this incredible yoga goddess. If I can ever take a training with her, I will love to. But I was at a yoga fundraiser. Yoga Reaches Out. They do it once a year in New England at Gillette Stadium. And she was the headliner that year. And she was describing Om as like those 3 syllables as like, it's always something good. Like, I'm going to botch it. It won't be verbatim, but she says something like, when you when you get into like a nice, cool, a warm bath or something, you're like, you go, or something. And then when you, I don't know, when you get hugged by somebody and you're like, ooh, or I don't know, they're all like good things. Or like you eat something really delicious and you're like,
Gotcha.
Like there are these just like positive vibrational sounds.
Vibrational sounds.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've been learning, we're all energy and vibrations and frequencies. And I've been learning how these frequencies can affect us, whether it's through vibration or sounds. And I have seen like on a couple Instagram posts, like how the Om is a universal sound like that and how it can affect you. But I'm still curious about that stuff because it's foreign territory for me, like the frequencies and how it affects our energy and state of mind and stuff. Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, I think it definitely goes into the individual because it's something, I can explain it, but it's something more felt.
For sure.
And there's no definitive, like it has to feel this way or it's more like when you can chant it yourself alone. I think I feel it the most when I'm in a room full of other people who are also doing it. Because you
shared energy.
Yes, and you can actually feel the vibration in your own body, like from your voice, but also from the collective.
Yeah.
And the syncing of it all is just once the sound is over, is to sit in it, is to kind of like sit and breathe and just absorb that, and without expectations. Maybe you might get something, you might have an enlightened moment, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just okay. But
I think that's another beautiful aspect of the yoga practice in a class, because I've done one on my own. Like I missed a class on a Wednesday. I was like, let me try it at home for the first time. So I pulled up my laptop and did a little follow along, and it was great. It was actually nice because I could do it at my own pace and like really figure some of these positions out. But also there's a different feeling when you're in a class with other people, that shared energy and the collective energy. It's different. You can feel the energy in the room.
Absolutely.
Shared.
I mean, yoga, it does mean yoke or to unite, to come together. So in the individual, you're uniting yourself with yourself through yourself. And in a collective form, we're all coming together to do a practice as one, but working on the individual. But by working on the individual, we're working as a collective, right?
Beautiful.
So as we better ourselves, we better each other.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that it also comes with like, just like with group exercise, like that camaraderie, being around people who are sharing that same energy. Also from just an objective standpoint, you're taken away from your distractions. Like you don't have, like I do it at homes too, but I never usually do an hour, maybe 30 minutes, 45, because I get distracted. My dog's barking, needs to go outside. My phone is buzzing in the other room or whatever, and it's just being in the studio, you're also able to just kind of turn off. But I mean, having the access to do it on our own is a gift because sometimes that's our only choice. Yeah.
No, it was cool. I liked doing it alone. I mean, like I said, some of these positions are tough for me. So when we're going through the flow, it's like I didn't really get to get that one good, especially like the balance ones.
Yeah, you can pause and redo
you can
it.
Pause and
that's the
really
beauty of the
figure it out.
self-practice, too, of your own practice, because it's like, it's your own. You can do whatever you want. You could do any pose in any sequence in any order. And maybe your practice is laying on the floor in Savasana for 30 minutes. It's to get to a point where you can unroll your mat and just like go. That's like a goal for me. Like even as a teacher, I still have a hard time bringing myself to my mat just alone, just like my mind go. Like I like having someone to guide me as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was wondering that as well. Like whenever you are doing it on your own, you usually do it guided?
Yeah.
Because me, I'm like, what do I do next?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll look some up online, whether I look on YouTube. Yoga with Adriene is a great resource. I've never met her personally, but she has a great personality on screen. And I love her teaching style. Really great. I do classes online as well through my website, Creating Positive Energy. And but when I really feel, because I know I deep down I am a creative, but I'm also a strong procrastinator, and I usually don't get things done unless I have a deadline, and like I'm like a few hours away from that deadline, then I'm gonna do it. Mm-hmm. Not with everything, but so if I have a creative class that's coming up, or I have a format that I really want it to be unique, then that's when I get to my mat without any guidance. And
creative class.
Yes.
Just like going with the flow.
Well, I've been doing I've done 2 so far, joining dance and yoga. I call it yoga dance flow. And it's a choreographed yoga sequence with more of a contemporary dance element to it.
Okay.
So that I have to have the choreography. I have to know what I'm going to do to warm up the body for those dance moves and all this type of stuff. So, cool. Yeah. So when I get exactly, so when I get to my mat, in that sense, I'll play music, and music has been my biggest inspiration for movement as well, because I'll let the music kind of move me. I'll pick the tone. I really like instrumentals. So if I'm feeling, really kind of lazy or tired, I'll put something slower on. Or if I feel like I want something to energize me, I'll find something with more of a upbeat tempo, and that will really get me going. Yeah.
You just reminded me of something that I really admire you for, is your powerful voice.
Oh, thank you.
Like you can control and shift the energy of the room using your voice. Oh. And I feel that in yoga, like, I don't know, like the way you shift your tone and your volume, your pitch, your melody. And I was wondering, I've been trying to work on that myself, just as a content creator. I'm going to be talking more into a camera, but I'm trying to be better at using my voice. Do you have any tips for that, or where did you learn to be so good with your voice?
I don't know.
I think it just happened naturally.
But thank you. I don't know. Maybe. I know also in my heart I am a performer. Having this dance background, I had a short little acting moment as a kid. My mom and my stepdad were big actors, and so I would do like some plays in our town. But I love being on stage, and I've actually had, I'm a big dreamer by heart. I have like 100 different dreams going on at once. And
that's
one
great.
Of them, many of them, one of them has been to be in Cirque du Soleil, which I know that's not going to happen, but that's okay. I'm still doing my aerial arts. And one was to be a voice actor. Actually, I've wanted to,
really?
I've wanted to look into that. But I've never actually looked into it, just because I've heard other people say like, oh, you have a really good voice. You have a good talking voice, really soothing. Yeah. I've considered doing recorded meditations and things like that, which again, haven't done it yet, but
you really know how to like use the right type of voice for the moment. Like in the yoga practice, when it's time to calm down, you get softer, more quiet, and it's more calming. And then when it's time to get ready, you amp it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that has to also come with just the experience. I've been teaching now for about 8 years, and it's also what what would I want as a yoga student?
Nice.
So that's kind of like how I reflect my personal practice.
I think that's a great teaching tip right there.
Yeah. And I think like when I am that student, when I'm on my mat, when I'm in a position, when I'm deep in that meditative state, I'd rather have someone bring me out of the class like this than, okay, take a deep breath.
Time's up.
It's you. So you have to, and that goes with being present. As a yoga teacher, I still have to be in the room with you. Of course, I'm thinking what the next pose is going to be and all this type of stuff, but I have to be really in line with the energy of the room. And if the energy's off, how can I bring peace into the room?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And the voice is huge, I find.
Voice is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
It's another vibration. And I've heard voices make and break classes. Like I've had students or someone be like, oh, I can't go to that class because whatever. And it makes me sad. But
in relationships too. I mean, the way you talk can make a huge difference.
Our words are impeccable.
Yeah.
They literally can break somebody for their entire life. And that also can parallel with your intention. Like, maybe you didn't intend to hurt that person's feelings, but think about how those words hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Yes, exactly. Cool.
So I got a couple closing questions here.
Okay.
What are you working on nowadays?
Well,
What are your latest projects?
My latest projects. I just came back from Arizona, from Chandler, Arizona, from the Stretch to Win Institute, as a fascia stretch therapist. Yes. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I've been learning more about fascia and myofascial release. I've been incorporating therapy balls from Yoga Tune-Up. I did a training with Jill Miller's group. So I've been working on that, using these therapy balls to incorporate in the yoga practice. And
I did one of your classes with it.
Yes. So,
that was cool.
And that again can go into unlocking more proprioceptors in our body and that deeper connection and healing. But to parallel with that, this stretch therapy works the whole body, but it's a very therapeutic approach to pain-free healing. Works with alignment. It works with your joint capsules. So not only do you create space and length in the muscles and the tissue fiber, but you're also working in the capsule, where sometimes there can be impingements on the bone, and that might limit, for example, your hamstring. Maybe the femur, that big bone that's in your thigh, is getting a little pinch in your pelvis. But if you're able to create a little bit of space in that joint capsule, oh my God, now your leg has so much more range. So it wasn't only just the hamstring that was tight. It could have been the space in the actual hip itself. And so I just came back from a training. I'm going to start working on that next week. And I'm very excited.
Wow. That does sound exciting.
Yeah.
Sounds like you can increase not only your mobility, but also your flexibility, longevity in life. You can improve your quality of sleep. It will improve quality of life because you're just going to feel better in general. So you feel better, you move better, you're going to act better, you're going to make better decisions. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about fascia from massage therapists, rubbing out that hot fascia.
Yes. That tissue, it's a big connective network that covers our entire body, and it holds not only tension, but emotion. Yeah. A lot of stuff.
Nice.
Our bodies are pretty cool.
Very complex.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I wanted to have this podcast is there's so much about the body that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And the interconnectedness, especially, like, who would have known that this muscle is connected to that muscle and this emotion?
Right.
What?
Right.
What?
Right. Or that I would be holding so much trauma from my childhood in my traps.
Yeah.
Like, who would have known that? Maybe
What?
I didn't realize that's why I've been walking with my shoulders in my ears my whole life. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You mentioned this earlier. You've got your website.
Yes, creatingpositiveenergy.com. It's an online studio. Right now I'm just doing online yoga and barre fitness classes. So, yeah.
Sweet. What does that look like?
Yeah, so they're anywhere from 30-minute to 60-minute classes. And I offer all different varieties. I have vinyasa yoga, power yoga. I have a few of the therapy ball classes on there. And then the bar fitness classes, you don't necessarily need equipment for them, but I do use some few pieces like some light weights, and a resistance band and a Pilates ball. But yeah, they can all be done at home or from wherever you are in the world. And yeah, just a great way to have another tool in your toolbox.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, please do.
If someone's looking for you, where else can they find you?
You could find me on Instagram. There's that. My handle is at Isabel __. There's two of them. Ortigoza. And let's see, where else can you find me? If you're in the Las Cruces area, I teach yoga at Dwell Yoga and at Indigo Yoga. And then soon I will be accepting clients at Sonoma Stretch for fascia stretch therapy.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I know you mentioned you're not a big reader, but do you have any favorite books?
Favorites. Let's see. What's a favorite book? Well, going back to Yoga Girl, Rachel Brathen. I really liked her books. She had one called To Love and Let Go, which was a really beautiful book. And I loved reading it. And it was all about the art of love and letting go, and how, that's what it is when you love something enough, or not even enough, just even the littlest bit, eventually you have to let go. And so it was a really deep book. I recommend it. A book I just got, which I haven't started yet, I've just been referred to, is it's like a series, The Court of Roses. Oh gosh, I'm botching it, and someone's going to hear this and be like, no, you're saying it wrong. The Court of Something in Roses. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to start that one. That's more of like a fiction fantasy type fun book. I normally read like more spiritual books. I'm currently going through Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now. That's always a good classic kind of grounding. If you want to read about the ego, that's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. If you could go back and give 18-year-old Izzy a piece of advice, one thing, what would you tell her?
Life doesn't always have to be a party. Don't be so hard on yourself. And believe in yourself. Believe in yourself more. An issue that I shouldn't say issue. I've always had confidence struggles, I guess, instead of issues. A lot of us do. And so I guess if I was even more confident and believed in myself, who knows where I would even be. Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Izzy. This was an incredible interview and an absolute banger to start off the podcast. Thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you so much, Jared. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you ultimate success, and I can't wait to talk again.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.